What's up, guys? Josh Lau, Nathan Crawford, and Ed Knight here with the Card Guys. Welcome back to our Heavy Hitters set review. Today, we're talking about Guardian, and we have Ed Knight here, Guardian specialist, to help reinforce the line here. Uh,
I
Ed,
hate that card.
you hate that card. Okay, that
I
is
hate that
true.
card played against me.
It's more anti-Guardian than Guardian, but still.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
it does have like a Guardian character on it, so I thought maybe
That's fair.
yeah. All right, so before we get started, I just want to quickly thank our sponsors here at the Card Guys: Fabric.gg, Magnolia Gaming, Dragon Shield, and Card Culture. Thank you for everything that you do for us. We really appreciate it. We also have a Patreon. If you guys like what we do, buy us a beer, buy us a drink. Link is in the description. Anyways, let's get going here. Ed, just high level overview just to start here. What do you think about the heavy hitters cards that have been revealed for Guardian?
I'm just excited to see a bunch of Guardian cards, to be honest. Like, this is pretty cool, right?
It's been a while.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's a whole lot going on for my boy Bravo.
Mhm.
There's some cards that could be played, of course, but really, it's going to be a lot of tools for these new other guys and girls,
Mhm.
Betsy and Victor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Speaking of
we'll
them,
lead into that, of course, but go
yeah,
ahead.
let's quickly talk about that since we are going to revolve all of our discussion around these three Guardians here. So, just to be clear, we're going to be focusing most of our energy on Classic Constructed. If something is relevant in Blitz, Commoner, or Limited, we will point that out. But our main focus here is on Classic Constructed. So up on the screen here, you guys could see the Guardians of Wraith, the OG Bravo showstopper here. Pay 2 resources until end of turn. Your attack action cards with cost 3 or greater gain dominate. Go again. The classic Guardian can be built more offensively, can be built more defensively. Uh, Ed, how's Bravo in the current meta and with the current card pool? And how do you see heavy
Yeah.
hitters helping
So,
him?
so Bravo used to be a more defensive deck. He played a bunch of paper scenes, Sink Belows, Sigil of Solace, Staunch Response, Unmovables, all that kind of stuff. Well, he has now transitioned predominantly to a Tunic-centric deck where it's just trying to maximize the value for each hand. So a lot of times you will have a whole bunch of 3 blocks in your hand. You're going to block with 2 of those 3 blocks, effective 6 block. And then you're going to have a Tunic counter and you're going to play a Choke Slam, which is a 4 for 8 off of your 2-card hand, which is just efficient.
Mhm.
The other thing with that is it's really trying to pair that with a pummel, some odd costed, like off curve attack that the pummel allows you, or the tunic allows you to pummel on top of that. So like a CNC off of 3 cards is incredible. Whereas Bravo used to with the tech play, when you had the 4 cards, it just wasn't as good because you really need to just like get the maximum efficiency out of that. I know talking with Kel McCreath like years ago, he used to just hate CNC for that reason because it's just like, oh, I got to keep a 4-card hand to be able to do that. Why would I do that when I can just say, hey, here's the disable off of the surge and then pummel it off of that? That's way more damage, does effectively the same thing. But yeah, right now he's a little more aggro, less on the blues, which is kind of weird. That was a fine adjustment for me. I know Nathan's been playing a little bit of the deck too. Honestly, doing a little bit better than me.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
a
Nathan,
little
you
upset about that, but that's all right.
you took Bravo to Worlds, so you've been playing quite a bit of Bravo as well. How has that been treating you?
I think he's in a great spot right now. He has the disruption. Tunic kind of plays the way that I prefer to play list now. But I think he got some tools. I think that there's probably about 3 different like really good contenders that'll kind of break its way
Mhm.
into the Bravo deck. I'm speculating, but that's where I stand. But yeah.
Okay,
There's
all
the
right,
equipment.
yeah. So Bravo in a pretty good spot. Got a few upgrades, a few side grades. Okay. Moving on, the first Guardian that was revealed in Heavy Hitters was Betsy, Skin in the Game. Uh, and her card says, whenever an attack you control wagers, you may pay 2. If you do, the
Mhm.
attack gains +1 and overpower. So this is very similar to Bravo in that you pay 2, you get some sort of evasion effect, but instead of dominate, you get overpower and +1. So Betsy kind of feels like the successor to when Bravo might LL this year, and Betsy is probably the one that's closest to Bravo. Obviously, she focuses quite a bit on the wager mechanic. There are quite a few wager cards in the set, but like we mentioned a little bit during the Warrior set review, talking about Olympia, the wager mechanic is not fully fleshed out, and she probably is like one specialization or so away from being complete. Ed, have you, or Nathan, have you taken a look at Betsy, and what do the
I
early
think she's
builds
pretty
look like?
solid. I think she has everything that she needs as far as like being competitive. I wouldn't put her next to Olympia in that manner, but is she broken? Probably not. I think that the hat's really like the key synergistic point
Okay.
to really kind of focus on when deck building, and other than that,
Yeah,
yeah,
of note that
she's pretty solid.
when we get to the hat, it is very special in that it does not break. So that's
Right.
something that we're definitely going to point out when we get to that. Okay, so Ed, any quick thoughts on Betsy?
I've been playing her a little bit. I'm more or less built her like Tunic Bravo, and it's solid. It's decent. I may be playing it wrong, of course, but there's some pretty key cards that we're going to be talking about that are good, and maybe some non-Guardian style cards that she really wants to see as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Betsy can be playing a few of the generic cards. We'll kind of point that out later. Okay, and a lot of the hybrid cards are also quite good for her. Okay, the
Mhm.
last hero that was revealed was Victor Goldmane, High and Mighty. The first time each turn you create a gold token from an effect you control, draw a card. The first time each turn you would fail to win a clash. Instead, you may destroy a gold token you control. If you do, put one of the revealed cards on the bottom of its owner's deck, then clash again. So you could put your opponent's CNC on the bottom and then reveal something, or you could put your own non-attack action on the bottom and try to go for a attack action. Of note, it says effects you control. So if you
Mm.
if your opponent is wagering a gold with you and you win the wager or clash or whatever, you don't draw a card. But Victor does draw quite a few cards anyways. There's quite a few effects that make gold tokens. So any initial thoughts on Victor Goldmane?
I think he has some very interesting, like just turn cycle value engines. Like very mainly like revolving around trounce and cards like that that really can like start pushing like those almost codex levels of value off of a card. However, there is some variance built into the card, whereas codex is always a for sure thing. So he definitely has some interesting like value turns. Is that enough? He's kind of lacking in some other areas, but we'll see.
Yep, I agree. He's actually pretty above rate for what we're used to on a Guardian, though, because of the sequence and being able to draw cards and get your might and your bigger tokens that are centric to the Guardian hybrid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's important to note that Victor's power level is going to be very dependent on what the metagame looks like, because if you're clashing against brutes, it's not going to turn out the best. If you're clashing against other guardians, it's not going to turn out that well, right? So you really want to be clashing against wizards, which there's only one in the metagame. Dorinthia, Kasai, Dromai to some extent. So yeah.
Well, you can't really clash with them.
Right.
'Cause you
Can't
can't
clash
play your
with the
block
wizard.
cards.
Yeah.
You
can't
sorry?
play. You can't play your block cards.
I'm sorry, what?
You
We're talking
can't
about the
play a
wizard.
block card against a wizard. So
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
there's no
Sorry.
way to
Yes.
clash.
Yeah. Okay. My bad. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
if warrior and like ninja are the
Mhm.
decks to beat, then victor becomes a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That is important to note, and just exposed how little I know about Guardian. That clashes are on block cards. Okay, so let's jump into some of the weapons, and then we'll move on. So first up, we got 2 new weapons in the set. We got High Riser. So this is a 3-power one-handed Guardian hammer. For 3 resources, you can attack with it. And it says if you draw a card this turn, this gets +1. So the most obvious comparison would be to Titan's Fist, I think is the name of it.
Yep.
So that gets +1 as well. If you
3
Pitch a
cost or
3
higher.
cost.
if you have something in your pitch stone, Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna see this played pretty much, right?
Never.
So of note,
Well-
Victor does use a shield, right? So he has to use a hammer.
In certain matchups, yes.
So
Titan's Fist is a hammer, one-handed.
yeah.
It's just strictly better across the board.
So for limited though, I could see a reason to play the High Riser.
Yeah.
Right. Just because it's always going to be 3. Like if your Miller's Grindstone becomes, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but it becomes like a 2 cost weapon, like that's pretty bad. So in general, it's probably not, but
Speaking of Miller's Grindstone, the card on the right, this is a 4-power Guardian one-handed weapon. That's a hammer. For 3, you can attack with it. When this hits a hero, clash with them. So you can clash with wizards, sir.
That's the
You
only
can-
way.
you can.
That's the only way. Yep.
If you win, destroy the top card of their deck. If they win, put a -1 counter on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this people have been talking about how this could enable a mill strategy. Of course, it's what do you guys think? Do you think there's going to be a mill related strategy with the grindstone, or is that really situational?
I think it's situational at this point. It's just
Or
not
is it-
consistent.
Yeah, I think the strategy is not to lean on the hammer, but like throw attacks that like have decent value that your opponent wants to block. Kind of talk them into blocking you, and then at the very end of the game, when your life total is low, and you those situations where you can block 9, swing 4, and still remove cards from their deck, I think it'll just be utilized in like the last, 6-5 turns of the game, but not really any before then.
So this is more of a second cycle type of deck. Attack them when their deck is mainly blues type of situation.
Well, you just have better things to throw than a hammer for 4.
Sure. Yeah, the days of block 9 attack for 4 are those were the olden days, I guess. Okay, so obviously these weapons join Anathos, Titan's Fist, Sledge of Anvilheim, and other cards. We'll see what Miller's Grindstone can do. High Riser probably not being played. All right, let's move on to the equipment. So just like with Warrior, we're going to quickly talk about the card on the right because it's not super relevant, because Guardian has 2 shields, I think, at the moment that are just better than this.
Yep.
When this defends,
3.
clash with the 3 shields. Yeah. When this defends, clash with the attacking hero. If you win, this gets +1 until end of turn and has temper with 1 block. So unless you really want to clash a lot,
This is good and limited, I think.
yeah, this is great and limited. This is 3 extra health and limited, but
Right.
Yeah, there's no reason to run this over the other shields that Guardian has access to.
Right.
So the card on the left, though, is a much more interesting card. So we have Gauntlets of Iron Will. This is a Guardian arms equipment that has 2 defense value and temper. It says when this defends, the next time an attack would gain power this chain link. Instead, it gains that much -1. So there's a lot of rules questions around this card, so let's clarify a few things. So the Judge Hub put out a judge question recently, talking about if this defends a charged card from Bolton. How would that work? And basically, Bolton's ability is a static ability. It just happens when you defend it. When you defend a Bolton attack with an attack action card. So this would actually not help in that case. This is mainly used against attack reactions.
Hmm.
Right.
Pretty good against things like Katsu and whatnot.
Yeah. So the direct comparison at the moment is to Crater Fist, which is also a 2-block temper piece that is to pay 2 or pay 3.
It's pay 3, and it's Goliath Gauntlet for crush attacks.
Mm-hmm. And if Magical Christmas Land, you can throw 2 crush attacks. It's actually +4, right? But Super Magical Christmas Land.
No, because you break it. You break it.
Isn't it all attacks get?
You could technically do it for, I think, 2 attacks. Yeah,
you would need a
If you
quicken
had,
token
like,
and a
7
ton
cards
of.
in hand,
You
that'd be crazy.
you would need
let me make sure.
Mage
It's never
Master's
happened for me.
Boots plus Tome of
How are you
Fendel
paying for that?
and a quicken token.
No, stop.
Yeah.
So basically, if you
Your
have
attacks
a
with crush. Yeah, it's all of them.
If you have a cold foil Crater Fist, I'm sorry.
Well,
This will replace 90% of the Guardian decks on a 1-for-1 swap for Crater Fist. There are spots where Crater Fist could be better, but the delta on that is not worth using a whole sideboard slot to have it in there. So I think that this card is just situationally better in most spots, and you're just going to run it over Crater Fist, plain and simple. Whether you're running Guardian or Bravo or Victor or Betsy, it doesn't matter.
I have a story.
Go for it.
I just played a 1K yesterday that I ended up winning. I know. Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate that. I won that 1K by cracking Crater Fist and dominating a Debilitate. So it happens way more than you think. But I do think this card is generally better. I do agree with you. But I don't think it's as easy as just saying this is a strict upgrade. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think in Bravo, Crater Fist still might be pretty good if you're playing the Tunic style.
Because you could convert 2 cards plus, it's like 2 blues Tunic, and then still launch something that has.
Well, you have to be very hard. You have to be very far ahead in the game to do that, because you're converting 1 block into 2 damage and a card. So you're turning 1 block and 1 card into 2 damage. Like that.
It helps you hold tempo in a lot of ways too, is what I'm saying. Like, for instance, like there's an example with
I've popped them before, like but it's just so like I've probably played 100 games of Bravo, and I think I've popped it once. Whereas this card, I guarantee you, I'll extract value from it probably 20 of those games.
Yeah, it is more often, but the more and more I play, the more and more often I see myself cracking Crater Fist, which is kind of funny, right? And I've talked to, again, like people like Kill, and they crack it like all the time. It's kind of nuts. But anyway, we don't have to like focus too much on this. Yeah, this card is just generally more consistent, of course, but I wouldn't just like put your Crater Fist in the shredder, is all I'm saying.
No, I would just sell it.
Yeah, I was about to point something out. You said shred. Nathan, do you want to finish your thought before I talk about shred?
No, that was it.
Okay.
That was it.
So there are basically 3 classes that use attack reactions the most: Warrior, Ninja, and Assassin, right? So obviously this against shred is not going to be great because it'll be destroyed in 1 shot. But against Ninja, this is quite good. Allows you to
really good
to block evenly against something that's threatening Mask or threatening a draw like Whelming, and then even if they play Ancestral Breaking Scales, it won't trigger. So
right.
Okay, good card. Side grade. I think if you have a Crater Fist and you don't want to drop money for the Gauntlets of Iron, well, I think you should be fine. But I think if you're competing at the highest level, you probably will buy it just for the slight edge that it'll provide. Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about the Betsy specializations. So there are 2 of them. Victor is a greedy boy, and he has 3, but Betsy has 2. So, but quantity and quality, right? So the Good Time Chapeau, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this, is
I think
a
that's correct.
Guardian head equipment that has 2 block and temper. And it says, as an action, destroy a gold you control. Your next attack this turn gets, when this attacks a hero, wager a might and a vigor token with them. Go again. So destroy a gold. The next attack this turn gets, when this attacks a hero, wager a might and a vigor token with them. Of note, this can be used again and again and again and again and again. And it will be used again and again and again and again. So the first problem she has to answer is, how does she get gold? Well, starting stake or wager is the main way you would do it. And then once you have that, you have a mini engine in that you have. So I'd say, would it be safe to say that gold is less useful in Guardian than in the other classes, or would you say it's about as useful?
I think they tiered it perfectly, where it's like Olympia gets it more often, therefore it's less valuable than Kasai. And then you could say the same thing about the Guardians, where I think gold, actually having the gold, goes farther in Betsy, therefore it's harder for her to obtain it compared to Victor. But like Victor getting the draw, obviously, depending on when that draw happens, it's a lot better. But yeah, I don't think it's. I think you have to compare like those specific heroes kind of situation.
Yep, that's a good point, Nathan. So turning gold into might and vigor. So we were talking about the importance of Tunic quite a bit, and how Betsy does play kind of similar to Bravo. So vigor tokens seem like a good replacement for Tunic. Or, I mean, do you still see Betsy using Tunic, or do you think
I do not.
Probably playing tech plating and then using the vigor tokens to cycle the vigor token? Okay.
Right. The combination of tech plating and a vigor token basically means any vigor token you get that you don't need that turn, because that's the risk you're running, is you might not need it. You get 2 turns to utilize the value of that vigor token, because you just turn it into a surge.
Yeah.
The surge can't be spent on everything, obviously, but it can be spent on most things.
Yep.
It gives you another opportunity to realize that value.
Yeah. And you're basically guaranteed to carry a vigor token over if you want, unlike Warrior, which has to hit with a weapon. So that's vigor is quite strong in that way. I think this is just so powerful that we're not going to see her run Crown or Balance of Justice, right?
I agree.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, she really needs this card.
Okay. All right. Speaking of cards that she needs, Bet Big. It's a 4-cost Guardian attack action that attacks for 8 and blocks for 3. And it says, when this attacks a hero, you may wager a gold, might, and vigor token with them. So I believe this is all or nothing. You wager a gold, might, and vigor, or you don't wager any of it.
Yep.
So this is one of the ways that Betsy can generate gold, and paired with her hero ability, Overpower is not exactly the same as Dominate but it doesn't say Crush, right? It just says all it has to do is hit, basically, right? So this should be a pretty difficult to defend attack. Obviously, costing 4 means you can add a pummel with 2 blues, or you can pay for this with Tunic, or not Tunic, sorry, the Vigor token. Yeah. So do you guys? I mean, what is there really to say about this? It's a good card. You attach a Might or two to it, it'll be great.
It's solid. It's better later in the game than it is early.
Yeah, they would definitely burn armor on this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The first 15 minutes you try to build a Betsy deck. The first problem that you're going to come across is you're having a hard time finding good attacks and then giving them wager. That's the most difficult part about building Betsy is you have to get those ratios down where this is a good rate card. You know, it's like your normal 4 for 8, choke slam, debilitate, buckling blow, whatever. And it already has the wager on it, right?
Mhm.
And it's a guardian card, so you get your seismic value, whatever the case may be. You know, that's going to be the thing noting forward for Betsy is like giving things wager is the hard part. And then finding things worth giving wager is the next part. So this just has it all in one card. It'll be a staple for as long as Betsy's around. Automatic 3 of in every list, probably.
Okay. Let's move on and talk about Victor's specializations then. Okay, like I said before, he has 3 because he is a greedy prince. First we have, oh man, how to pronounce that? Arum Aegis. This is a Victor specialization. It is a guardian offhand equipment with 2 block and temper. And very simple, it just says this counts as a gold.
Right.
So
It's good.
do we know, like,
You cannot activate it.
yeah, you can't you can't activate it, but it counts as having a gold. So can you explain to me some situations where that's relevant? I'm not entirely
if
sure.
you look at the card on the right, the Golden Sun, it says as additional cost, you may destroy a gold you control.
Right.
AKA you can
Mhm.
destroy the shield. Or his clash ability on his hero text where you can redo the clash. You can basically block for 2 always, and then just instead of blocking the last value, you get to redo a clash or something along those lines.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
if you lose a very key clash at a certain point, like this is just kind of a
Right.
emergency sell.
There's
Fail
also
safe, right?
double down, right? You can destroy this for double down.
That as
Yeah.
well, right?
Okay.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're basically just gonna get 2 block off of this and try to cash it in. Although you can't you can you
You can.
can cash it in.
Cash in
Okay.
with it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so cash it in through one of those means that Nathan was talking about. Or you could just block with it twice. So do we see this as like, so normally specializations are just auto includes, right? But this basically forces him into not running Sledge Van Fulheim, not running Anathos, right? So
Well, he would like have basically 2 hammers in his sideboard, right? He would switch between probably Miller's Grindstone and the Aurum, or Anathos, because he's playing Clash, so all of his cards are going to be big, so Anathos is going to be decent, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the middle card. Golden Glare is a Guardian head equipment that blocks for 2 and has Blade Break. So just to quickly refresh people's memory, Blade Break will be destroyed once it defends. Temper can defend once, and then if you defend with it again, then it breaks, right? And Golden Glare says, when this defends together with 2 or more yellow cards, create a gold token.
Just a limited block card.
Yeah.
For the most part.
How many yellow cards are you even running in Guardian?
Yeah, I mean,
Starstruck?
I
In
think
Victor,
this is
you
a
have like 6.
yeah, I think this is a build around card. Like, if you look at it from a value basis, like
It's Crown
the
of
point
Dominion.
at which you draw a card off of Victor's hero ability is not equal, right? If you draw it on your opponent's turn, you get to decide, okay, I want to block with a whole extra card if they have go again, something like that. But if you like attack and win like a wager that creates a gold as Victor, then it's basically, do I want to arsenal this card or not? And like Guardian, that's a very bad spot to be in because chances are it's a shitty blue and you're probably not going to arsenal it anyway, most of the time, mathematically, right? However, this draws a card at the most opportune time, right? You block with it in 2 yellows, you create a gold token, which lets you redo a clash, and you draw a card. So theoretically, packed in this one card, you're getting about 6 value. 3 from the card, 1 from the gold, and 2 from the block. Which is
It's pretty high.
that to get that out of equipment is insane. The problem is where exactly Ed said. Most Guardian lists are only going to run about 6 yellows, and that's pushing it, right? You got the Golden Sun, maybe like some yellow disables or something, you know.
They usually play the lists that are being built. Of course, they are not like refined or anything like that. But I've seen some Righteous Cleansing because that's like the biggest thing you can be sending. Right. So that's what I'm kind of seeing. I'm sure there's some variant of the deck. Like I've brainstormed some ideas where you do play more yellow cards, and it's like yellow block style cards, right? That you could get value off of this, but then again, it only is good against a deck that's like sending 8 as an attack, you know? Like, because yeah. So you would never play this against like a ninja, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe a sideboard card or a build around card. Okay, let's talk about the right card here. The Golden Sun, SON, is a 4-cost yellow strip, 7 power guardian attack that defends for 3. And it says, as an additional cost to play this, you may destroy a gold you control. If you do, this gains +3 in overpower. So this becomes 10 overpower. When you win a clash revealing this, create a gold token. So
it's pretty decent.
It does it plays defense and it plays offense. Pretty good. Very similar to
it's a late
Betsy's.
game finisher.
It seems very solid.
This is just an auto 3 of in every Victor list. I mean, if you look at this, the way that I look at this card is, in the history of Fab, we have never had a higher level of evasion at such a low cost. Yes. Right? Name me one situation where you can have
for 4.
10 overpower for 4 resource. Like, the only thing close to that is what? Paying the Bravo Spinal? That's a whole extra card, right? And another resource.
Right.
Well, he has it, but he's paying dividends the whole game to do so. Whereas this dude just eats it, like, and
breaks his shield. If he could do this on turn 0.
Right. Like he could do it on turn 0, absolutely.
Right.
And then you just have the high roll potential of revealing it on a clash, right? You do have to win the clash. It's very important to note that, but it being a 7, that is the biggest break point in regards to clashing. So I just think this card's an all-star. I think this is one of the reasons you are playing Victor.
Maybe even if it's that core, we might see, a single copy of Remembrance to get this back. So okay.
Only you can block a Remembrance, make Golden Glare very, very good.
that would make it pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on and talk about the Majestics for Guardian. So there are 3 of them, and they are all quite different. So now that we've, escaped from the specializations, we're going to be talking about all the cards going forward in the context of Bravo, Betsy, and Victor. Okay, the first card that we're going to talk about is Primed to Fight. This is a 5-cost red strip. So these Majestics only come in 1 color. If a card comes in multiple colors or just a single color, I'll let you guys know. So this is a 5-cost red Guardian attack action that attacks for 9, blocks for 3. If you controlled, that's ED, controlled a vigor token this turn, this cost 1 less to play. If you controlled a might token this turn, this gets +1 power. So double dip on the vigor, double dip on the might. Seems fine. Costs 5 though, which is a very weird number, right? In Guardian.
Well,
Not if
it's
coming in
on
for
rate
9.
for its cost.
It's on rate for its cost. Okay.
A 5 for 9 is
Mhm.
like that's what Spinal
Spinal.
Crush is. Obviously, doesn't have the
Mhm.
text, but when you have those tokens, this is a 3 for 11, and that's pretty good.
That is, yeah. So
I think if you have a vigor, that this card's insane. The might is like
Yep.
it's all right because you're only getting 1 value from the might, but you're saving a whole card on the vigor because the vigor pops gives you 1,
Correct.
then it gets discounted, so it's literally a 2 card
mhm.
swing, which is huge.
Do you think this is like an auto include into Victor? Probably.
I think it's something you need to look at, and it's all going to depend on how easily your list is making vigor tokens. But if you have anywhere between 6 to 9 vigor creators, I think it's just worth it, right? Because
Right.
if you get to play one of these, I mean, it's so much value.
Yep. This is I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is one of the cards I want in my arsenal so that I can set up a situation where it becomes live. If you just randomly draw this, maybe you have the correct setup, maybe you don't. Obviously, if this is in your deck, you probably are working towards it, so it's not going to be that inconsistent. But the most consistent way is to set this into Arsenal and set up a situation where you are primed to fight. So,
Good. It's very good in Betsy, I would think too, because of the show, or however you say that.
Yep. And for Bravo, this is probably not played, I'm guessing.
I seriously doubt it. Yeah.
Okay. So
because it's not really a clash deck, even though it could be, but just I don't know.
So just from a high level, we don't think Bravo's going to be generating many vigor or might tokens.
It's likely not to.
I think he will have little engines, like maybe a couple of the 4 defense blocks cards. Because like the opportunity cost is so low, right? If you were to swap a Fate for Scene for a Clash of or whatever that card's cost, Test of Vigor or whatever, and you
Test of Vigor
you're getting the same. Yeah, you're getting the same block value from your card. You're just changing the window at which you can block, and you can't Arsenal, obviously. But the Bravo decks are leaning more aggressive, so that's not the worst thing on the planet. And getting a Vigor token in Bravo it's insane, right? Imagine CNC pummel without having to use your tunic counter. I mean, it's just it's bonkers. And so I think that the final iteration of Bravo a month down the road will have 1 to 2 of these in the deck.
Okay.
A Test of Vigor, not a Prime to Fight.
Both.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
interesting.
Well, we'll see down the road. All right. Speaking of block cards, we got several here. So we have Boast, which is a blue Guardian block card that blocks for 3. And it says this gets +X while defending, where X is twice the number of clashes you've won this turn. So how do we generate clashes to pump this? Well, the card on the right is one example. But basically you would declare several cards at the same time, and then you would just do the clash, and then Boast would get a bump. Realistically, this is probably only blocking for 5 at max. Would you really need this to block for 7? I get
Boast is the perfect card to take to your LGS and get store credit for to buy either the card on the left or right. It's just not it's asking you to do a lot of clashes defensively against the same attack combat chain, which is already asking a lot, and then all those cards that you're adding that will clash are not going to help you win clashes. So it's a very conflicting card.
That's what I was about to say too.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
adding
like
cards that lose you clashes, right? So
right. With the exception of Clash of Might and Clash of Vigor, those are 6 attack in red. But like, you just don't want your reds in Guardian to be 2 for 6s unless they're actually like really doing something.
Mhm.
But no,
Okay, so we're kind of seeing a little bit of disconnect between the Clash, block, and general Guardian mechanics. And this is something we didn't see with Warrior. We saw that like all three of them were like ridiculously good at all of them. So that's
Hmm.
you know, the design of the class is kind of, coming to fruition here. The card on the right, though, you're pretty high on this card, right, Nathan? So this is Trounce, a red Guardian block card that blocks for 3, and it says when this defends, clash with the attacking hero. Put the revealed cards on the bottom of their deck, then clash again. If a hero wins both clashes, they create a gold, a might, and a vigor token. So pairs nicely in Trounce into Prime to fight is quite nice if you can do that. And against certain decks, this is going to be very, very reliable because as long as like, what do you what are the current ratios for Guardians? Like, is it 40 attack actions, 20 non-attack actions, or 45 attack actions?
what, 44 Ed, something like that. 44 attacks,
all right, let me pull it up.
pretty average.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely weighted towards the attacks for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. If I had to guess
Looking
off the
at the
top of my head, I'd say about
stats,
44 attacks
Mhm.
on average, and in
Yeah.
like a 60, lean 60.
Yeah, and
you
so
see, like, let's say we're playing against Vi, right? Like, we have 39 poppers just against specifically Vi, so that's already like almost 40 attacks
Mhm.
there.
Right.
And then you're also playing,
Or
things like
Boulder
Boulder
Drop
Drop
and
and Rouse the
right,
Ancients that don't count towards
right,
that. So I'd say about,
right.
75% of the deck is
So
attacks.
I'm just trying to think of this from a mathematical perspective. So let's say you let's say you're playing against Dorinthia with no Command and Conquers. So you flip any card with an attack value, you win, right? So that's going to happen 2/3 of the time. Now it says win both clashes. So if you both reveal a 0, if you both fail to reveal anything, uh, that's that's a tie is a loss in this case, just like a tie is a loss
Right.
in Gem, right? So the math
Right.
is actually is 2/3 times 2/3 against a deck that literally cannot win a clash, right?
Right. But
So
then you
that's
can also
4 out of
factor in the
9.
redo.
Yeah,
You
that's
can
4 out of
do the
9.
redo.
Correct. Yeah. So there's like this is a just like I said,
Right.
I knew algebra class was going to be useful. I knew stats class was going to be useful one day.
Yeah.
So with the redo, you get an extra dip towards this. So
For Victor.
better for Victor.
Right.
Is this playable in Betsy and in Bravo? Is 4 out of 9 chance against Dorinthia good enough?
It might be okay enough in Betsy as a sideboard card against something like Ninja, right? Like if you're, because maybe that's just what you need to do as Betsy, because that's one thing that we'll probably end up talking about.
Mhm.
She just she doesn't have as much disruption, so how do you capitalize on like getting your best foot forward? Well, it's by making gold might and vigor tokens to be able to like push your cards like prime to fights and whatnot. So
Okay. All right. Okay, so best in Victor, possible in Betsy, probably not played in Bravo. Okay.
But if you do succeed in both clashes, it is literally in Victor anyway. It is literally a 1 card 10 because you get
yeah, it's nuts.
the gold, which is 1 value. You get the might, which is 1 value, and the vigor, which is 1 value. Then you get the 3 block. That's 6. And then you draw a card, which is 9. And then, you have like more information on like whether you want to block with more cards, which you could say is possibly worth another value or so. So it's basically a 1 card 9 for 10 if it hits in Victor. So huge swing And then if you have a prime to fight to throw after it,
Yep.
you win the game. Perfect combination there. I think it'll mainly see playing Victor. I'm not expecting it in the other ones, but maybe
Okay.
somebody does something funny in Betsy. I could see it.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to the next section. So these are cards that we've actually seen already. These are from Round the Table, the supplemental UPF focused product that came out a couple months ago. So now you don't need to get that. You can actually get these cards in heavy hitters. Of course, if you want Civic Footsteps or red, not Salt the Wound, red Bittering Thorns.
Bittering Thorns.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're still gonna have to get it, but okay, so we got 3 different cards here. These, in general, rares come in rainbow, but these do not. So there's only one pitch value of the following cards. So first up, we have Colossal Bearing, which is a 4-cost, 8-power Guardian attack that defends for 3. It says Tower, which is a keyword. So Tower says if this has 13 or more power, it gets, when this hits a hero, destroy an equipment they control with 1 or less defense. So basically you have to bring this from 8 to 13, which is prior to this set was very difficult to do. You'd have to set up something that there are many cards that you pay 2 or 3 into it and then it'll sit there.
It's an aura,
and then,
right?
Yeah, the
You have to
auras
have an
that
aura.
pop. Yeah.
You have to play an
But
aura.
now you can basically get there with a single might token plus pummel. Is one of the ways to get there. What do we think about this card here? Is destroying equipment with 1 or less defense relevant enough? So keep in mind there's a lot of temper equipment now. We have not seen battle worn equipment printed for a long time now.
Right.
I think LSS has realized, this battle worn thing is real good. So they've basically been printing only temper and Guardwell equipment.
I mean, it's okay, right? It's a 4 for 8. Maybe there's a meta where like you have the best way that a Guardian can win a matchup is by blowing up a card with 1 or less defense value.
Tunic,
and then
is
you just
yeah.
have like a sideboard package associated with it, but it kind
But
of
to
asks
me,
a
like,
lot.
how does this beat Mangle, for instance, right? Like, it's more or less the same text.
Because this does
You
not
still have
need a
to pump.
-1. Right?
Mangle, you have to put a -1
Oh, that's
on
true.
the thing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. This one's a lot it's less conditional on your opponent, but more conditional
Sure.
on you, which you have more
Okay,
agency over, is kind of
That's
the
a
idea.
good point. I didn't think about that. Like, so this could technically kill like a ghostly touch or something like that.
Right,
But
right. So,
yeah, that's not terrible.
Mhm.
Okay, I was comparing them to Mangle, and I was like, Mangle is just the better card. I forgot
maybe
the
you're
-1.
yeah, like maybe Guardians have an issue with Kasai and her extracting so much
Yeah.
value from dynamos.
Yep.
Blow that
Right.
shit up. Like it's gonna require a lot, but like
Right.
that's the way, that's the only use case I see for this card. Simple as that.
Right.
And so there's 2 issues with this card. First is it's a red, right? So it's like, how many reds do you want to be running in your Guardian deck? 15 to 18, right?
Right.
And also this is a card that, like, if you play 1 of, you might not see it until turn 14. If you play 3 of them, well, then there might not even be a good target for them. So it's like,
Right.
it's a little bit of a weird situation there for that card. So situational, possibly sees fringe use. Okay, the next card to talk about is Lay Down the Law, a 3-cost, 7-power Guardian attack action that blocks for 3. It also has Tower, and it says if this has 13 or more power, non-equipment cards get -1 while defending this. So turns their 3 blocks into 2 blocks.
3 for 7s have to like do so much to make it into a Guardian deck, especially in red. because
Mhm.
you have options like Crush
Right.
Confidence, Crush the Weak, like so many like niche tech cards where like this one doesn't do anything. It just says,
And
"Hey, you don't want to block this."
from
I mean,
7 to 13 is hard,
Right.
right?
right. Like that's a
Yeah,
lot.
plus
That's plus
6 is a
6.
lot.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So not the greatest. But the card on the right is much, much, much easier to get to a reasonable point. This
And
one,
it has the worst effect.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
yeah. This one says
It's like the most niche.
Smack
Yeah.
of Reality, which is a 5-power red pitch, 9-power guardian attack action card that defends for 3. It has tower, and it says if this has 13 or more power, it gets, when this hits a hero, destroy all aura tokens they control. So this just needs to be bumped by 4. So not.
When they unban Scalata,
Yes, that's what I
and
was thinking.
Disarray starts OTKing you.
This is a Living
This card's
Legend
gonna be
All-Star.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Destroy
I first
12
read this-
enchants.
When I first read this, I was like, it piqued my interest because it's like, okay, you just throw a pummel on it, it's live, easy, right?
Mm.
Now I read it and I was like, okay, aura tokens. I was like, do spectral shields count as aura tokens? And I was thinking, oh wait, it doesn't matter because if
They
it
pr-
hits, they don't
Yeah.
have any. So I was like, this card's not it.
And it's not
Right.
useful against Pierce Reality. Pierce
Right.
Reality, Shimmers of Silver. All
yeah,
those
it's not
blue
blowing
zero
up all the
cost.
stuff you want to. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be tokens. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this page doesn't have a lot of strong cards except Colossal Bearing, basically. In
Right.
very fringe cases. Okay, let's move on and talk about the other rares that were printed in Heavy Hitters for Guardians. So there are 2, and they're quite different. So the first card that we're going to talk about is Over the Top. This is a 3-cost, 6-power, or 5 or 4. So this comes in Rainbow. Guardian attack action that attacks for 6, 5, or 4, defends for 3. It says if this has power greater than its base, it gets Overpower. Good finisher card in Limited. Not good enough in CC, I would say.
Oh, I
3 for
love it in
6.
CC. I
Really?
love this card in season. This
3 for
is a
6.
Betsy. This is
Okay,
a Betsy all-star because there's so many cards in the game that are like 1 cost plus 3 wager X,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you just turn on everything you need for Betsy and bam, you already have the overpower.
You would need a Vigor token at the start of your turn, but that
To
is
fit it
doable.
into fit it into the perfect curve, right? But if you attach a money where your mouth is to this, 9 overpower, get a gold. Like
It's pretty good.
and then like if you don't have the vigor token, like worst case scenario, you just make a seismic surge, right? Like it's not the end of the world. So you're getting basically off of what 1, 2, 4 cards, you're getting 9 value of gold and a seismic. Like it's not the most amazing thing, but it gets the hat going, which is the most important part.
Okay. So a role
When I looked
player
at
in
this-
certain decks.
When I looked at this, I saw the 3 for 6, and I was just like, yeah. I don't
It's
know
not
about that.
amazing rate, but once again, Betsy, her heart. The problem is this card doesn't go well with Betsy's hero ability because the whole
Right.
point of Betsy's hero ability is to give it overpower and already has it on there. This is a good like engine starter, basically, like to get your first gold piece. So I guess I'm wrong when I said it was an all-star. I think it is a role player, probably. Like you're not gonna automatically have 3 of these. I would say if there's like that last couple reds that you need, and you're kind of lacking those role players, this could make it into the list. So it's definitely not an all-star, but like it has a purpose in Betsy.
Okay. Okay, the other rare card that we need to talk about is Stacked in Your Favor. This is a 2-cost Guardian Aura that blocks for 2, which is the first time we've seen that. Your attack action cards get +3, +2, or +1 while defending. At the start of your turn, destroy this, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on the top of your deck. So it's kind of like Stonewall Confidence and
Right.
that other card from WTR. The one that you reveal 3 cards and gain life.
Oh, Blessing of
Yeah,
Deliverance.
it's kind of. Is it kind of like that?
Blessing of Deliverance
It's kind of
says
like
at the
those
start of your
together.
turn, you sacrifice it, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and you gain life, and you
Yeah.
put the cards back in the same order.
Well,
This is more like filtering, right? So if you're like, I'm really digging for that blue, then
mhm.
maybe. But
What,
it
oh,
being a two
I'm thinking of
block
Showtime. My bad.
is
My bad. I'm thinking of Showtime. Showtime draws a card when it breaks, right?
right, but
Yeah,
you have to put
yeah,
a card back
yeah,
with this
yeah.
one is the
So
problem.
this one's not actually netting you a card.
Right.
So you have to play this for 2 cards. This does have go again, so it doesn't end your turn like Blessing of Deliverance does.
Blessing of Deliverance also
Yeah.
has go again.
Oh, sorry. The other card.
Showtime ends your turn. Yes.
Yeah.
Stonewall Confidence says go again.
Stone. Yeah. So
Also, yeah.
So this is so like Stonewall Confidence doesn't see any play at all. So it's like
I had Kale try to fatigue my Briar with it one time. That's the only time I've ever seen it played, and it didn't work then. So I don't know.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't horrible, but it didn't work. The only logical play that I see with this card is make a Seismic Surge, play this, swing Anathos, which is a 3-card exchange. And if you block with 1 card and get 6 value off of the block or whatever, then the card was technically free and you get a free filter. But that's just asking like for a lot of things to happen, and it comes at the opportunity cost of being a red and a 2 block, which I don't think it's worth it.
Yep.
Pretty low on that card.
Okay. All right, let's move on then. So there are a lot of commons that were printed, and I've divided them into several categories. So the first is the common Guardian Disruptive attack action cards, and there are 2 of them in the set. The first is Command Respect. This is a 3-cost 6/5 or 4 power Guardian attack action card that blocks for 3. And it says, when this hits a hero, if it has power greater than its base, destroy a card in their arsenal. Fairly easy for this to have higher power than its base. And it becomes CNC, sort of, but they can obviously play D-Reacts. And this costs 3, which is makes it hard to come in with a combat trick.
I think these are just good with might tokens.
Yeah.
I don't think you should ever look at these cards and say, "Oh, pummel," right? Because I know somebody's going to sit there and be in the comments and say, "Look, you can have a vigor token and a tunic counter and pummel these." Well, yes, you could have tunic counter, have a vigor, have a situation where you have space in the game to play this, and them have an arsenal all happen on the exact same turn. Yes, that can happen.
Yes.
But it's much more likely that a might token pops. You send it for 7 with a breakpoint.
Yep.
Both of them have very good on hits. So I think that's what it's for.
This card
Not pummel.
This card gives you a little bit more agency over the speed of the game, which certain Guardian decks may like. Because this basically says, "Hey, you're not having a big turn, okay? No big turns here." So something to this might see a little bit of play in a deck that can generate a lot of might tokens, like Nathan said.
Yeah, the one problem is though, like every single class has like which token they prefer. Like Brute and Warrior, I think it's both clearly agility. And in Guardian, I believe it to be Vigor is the better of the 2, simply based on the cost curve of the average Guardian card. And these cards play well with the lesser token is kind of the problem. So yes, you can build your deck more toward might tokens, but that's up to you.
Okay. The next card we need to talk about is Concuss. This is a 3 cost, 6, 5, or 4 Guardian attack action card that defends for 3. And it says, when this hits a hero, if it has power greater than its base, they discard a card. So Command Respect destroys a card in Arsenal. Concuss takes a card from hand. So you said,
It's
Nathan,
just
that
strictly better.
they may not have an Arsenal. Well, they're probably having cards in
They
hand.
gonna have a hand. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, this is a better than Command Respect, and basically there's really no unless you're playing against a combo deck. Concuss is just better.
Even then, take a card out of the hand of a combo deck, like that can be equally as good.
Yeah,
if you're just trying to prolong it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else to say about these cards? If not, we can move on.
Nope.
Do you see this played in any specific deck? Like, I know the Overpower one. You made a good argument about that with the Betsy, right? Do you see these being played in one of those?
I think that for the first month, I think a lot of people will play these cards. And then they will realize they are bad cards if you don't build around them. And so at that point, you're going to have a choice. You either cut the card or you have more might engines, right? And if there's a good deck that can do that, then these decks will slide right in, no problem. If there's not, they're the first to go.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, the rate is just not great. No, I'm just saying the rate's not great. You have to have things line up in a proper way. If you're playing something like Victor, I've been looking a little bit more into Victor than I had Betsy personally. Sure, you make mites and vigors, but like you're adding cards that are 6 powers, and if you're playing against a bunch of brute, which we probably expect that there's going to be a bunch of brute, guess what? You're tying / losing your clashes, and then these cards are just like, whatever.
Well, everybody runs CNC, right? You don't even win that clash. Like
that's true.
Red.
That's true.
It's a red.
Yep.
Okay. Now these 2 cards, even though I put them in red pitch, we're actually going to talk a bit about their blue pitch counterparts. That's actually something that we haven't really mentioned. Are any of the previous cards relevant in blue?
No.
Okay.
Not that I can see.
Sure.
Nope. None.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's talk about a card that is going to be relevant in blue. So these are the Common Guardian Clash attack action cards. First up, we got Thunk, which is a 5 cost, 8 power Guardian attack action card. Defense for 3, attacks for 8, 7, or 6. When you win a clash revealing this, create a might token. Now, the red is pretty irrelevant here, I think. It is the blue that we need to be focusing on. So that is a 6 power card, which Guardian 6 power blues, pretty good.
It's the last one we needed. We kind of had like a boulder drop slot where it was a 5 attack. And so going forward, those go out of the deck. The blue ones of these go into the deck. Makes your Zealous better. It makes your Rouse better. It makes everything about the deck better. You're never casting the card. One cool thing, it will probably never happen, but it's cool. If your opponent clashes with you and you win with your own Thunk, you get the might token.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. You know, it's very rare that it's going to happen, but it can.
Yeah, the card's great. It's gonna be a 3-0 for sure. So extra poppers. Zealous Belting, fantastic card. Makes it better, right? More consistent.
Yep.
Can tell you how many times I draw a boulder drop and I'm like, well,
can't
this
reveal 13.
the Zealous Belting sucks. Yeah, same thing with Rousing Ancients and stuff too.
Yeah. Okay, so the other card is Wallop. 4 cost, 7 power, 6 power, or 5 power. Guardian attack action card that defends for 3. It says when you win a clash revealing this, create a vigor token. The red and yellows are just not good enough, and the blue is 5 power, so that just doesn't cut it, right? Or
I think it's played
maybe
in
played in
Victor,
Victor.
at least in these early builds. Yeah, because like you're clashing light, the Vigor token is like decently important, right? And same thing like what you were talking about, Nathan. Like you need more ways to generate Vigor tokens, and if you happen to win a clash based off of that, and you're able to play a Prime to fight, like that's solid. So
Yep.
Also, to back up what I mentioned earlier on which token was better in Guardian, this is actual proof from the devs, right?
mhm.
They knew that we were going to run Blue Thunk, right? So they attached the worst of the two to it. So that one creates might instead of vigor, right? So this is kind of the devs telling us which one you should be valuing more. And they're going to make you run worse cards to generate vigor typically, right? It's like a tendency you'll see in the cards.
Okay. Blue Thunk, good. Blue Wallop, acceptable in Victor. Let's move on.
Mm.
Okay, so we have the Common Guardian other attack, other action cards section. And we have 3 of them here. 2 of them are auras. So the first is Big Bop. So
It's a great name.
these are basically wager cards. These are the equivalent to Warriors +3 in wager for 1. Guardian is +5 for 3. So Big Bop is a 3 cost Guardian aura. Defense for 2. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then your next Guardian attack this turn gets +5. And when this attacks a hero, you may wager a Vigor token with them. So, can be attached to weapons, can be attached to Guardian attacks. But yeah, it's basically the very, 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 very similar to the Warrior cycle as well. There's less combat tricks though for Guardian, so it's like they don't have the take the upper hand, so it might be harder for them to win the wager, but you know, +5 on top of a chunky Guardian attack is generally going to hit.
Even if these were like 3 blocks, I don't think it would see play. Just because like you're giving up an entire turn setup sequence, right? Like it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, the only situation that once again what I mentioned earlier with Betsy is you're going to find a common problem where you're trying to give good cards wager. This is an okay way to do it. Like it does attach your most valuable token in the form of a wager, and it turns on Betsy's hero ability on a fresh turn, allowing you to have plenty of resources to activate her hero ability. The problem is pretty below rate. I mean, even if you are successful in your wager, you just did a 2 for 6, which is not where you want to be. So the way that I look at Big Bop is like, I could see a situation where it could be like a necessary evil, but I'm never excited to put it in a 60.
This might be great on turn 0, but even then it's like,
Yeah, it's
Sure.
good turn 0, sure.
Yeah.
Or you can like imposing visage into it, I guess. But like again, it's a 2 block. You're taking an off turn, giving your opponent full tempo to play this, and then you're expecting not to block as a Guardian deck. Like I don't know.
Right.
So the original card that this kind of is mirroring is Towering Titan, and one of the reasons why that doesn't see play is because you have to take a turn to set up. Then you have to, well, with Towering Titan you had to draw an attack action. This just, you could swing your weapon with Big Bop, but you basically, it stipulates that the next turn you have to draw good resource cards, and you are basically completely shields down against whatever your opponent is doing. So if your opponent is waiting for an opening, the Guardian setting up an aura that gives a bonus to the next attack is one of the best openings in the game. Because if you can,
Mm.
especially if you're low on life, if you could get cards from their hand, you basically win the game from that point on. Yeah, that is the fundamental issue with all these style cards is that, this would be arguably better if it was a instant. Let's say this is an instant no block. What are we thinking about that then?
I
Like
think
just
it gets
instant get
worse.
+5. Is that
Uh,
what you're saying?
you could play this
Oh,
at
like an
instant
instant
speed, so
aura.
it doesn't
Okay.
consume your action point
I think it gets worse.
because it doesn't block. You have to play it out. It forces you into
I
a pattern.
Yo,
I
you
don't.
have to have
Yeah.
like a 5-card hand to make that work, and then
Yeah.
like play a 2-card
Mhm.
7 that becomes a 12.
Mhm.
Like,
Well,
and
I
then
think
at
you
that
just
point you
play
don't have
this
your
and then hammer,
resources.
right? Just play
Yeah.
this and then hammer.
Well, that's true. That's true. You can do
Or
that,
you
and
you
then
play this in reactions and pump the hammer. Con.
no, he's saying with the same text, like at the start of your turn, destroy this.
No, I'm saying like your extra card goes in the pitch zone during reactions, so it pumps the hammer.
And it's, yeah, and it's,
Right?
okay.
You see
I
what I'm
see.
saying? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
All right, let's
But we don't have to worry about that. It sucks.
we don't have to worry about that. This video is already going very, very long. We shouldn't talk in hypotheticals here.
see.
Sure.
No,
Next card
that's
is
going to be short. Everybody going, oh,
yeah.
No.
All right,
That's
bigger than
it.
big, a 3-cost.
It's the same thing, might token.
Yeah, it's
Same
the same.
yeah, it's just worse.
Of note, these
Yeah.
do come in rainbow 5-4-3, but I don't see you playing blue 2
They get
blocks in
worse
Guardian.
in
Yeah,
5-4-3.
yeah, it's okay. So bigger than big, same thing, except it creates some might tokens. Not a good card. Okay, this is a cycle of cards. So the warrior card was the Blood Run Goblet. This is the Guardian one,
Great.
Pint of Strong and Stout. So it says create. So this is a 0-cost blue pitch, only comes in blue. Guardian action, the defense for 2. It says create a might and a vigor token. Go again.
I think this is the worst of the 3.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
no Blood Run
Sure.
Goblet.
Yeah.
Does have a lot of synergy with the Majestic that we saw.
Right.
That's
about it.
That's the lowest hanging fruit. So the main reason we said that the Goblet was very good was because it was very difficult for a 0-cost blue card to generate a lot of value.
Right.
Normally it generates 1 value. But
Right.
an agility plus a vigor token in warrior is worth at least 2
Like
value.
3.
Or at
Probably
least 2,
3.
probably 3 or 4. A might and a vigor token is probably worth 2.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for it to be worth 3 or 4. Right?
And Guardian has such good
Right.
blues. Like that's what
Yeah.
you're competing with.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Blocks too. Get it out of here.
Yep.
We don't want it.
All right, so now let's move on to the hybrid section. So to explain this section, we basically are going to use this slide as a reference. So Guardian hybrid equipment. So from here on out, the left card is Brute Guardian, the right card is Guardian Warrior. Neither of these are particularly interesting, but maybe you'll play them in commoner. But again, left is Brute Guardian, right is Guardian Warrior. So let's move on to the actual cards that are actually good. The Guardian Hybrid Majestics. So on the left, we have Talk a Big Game, a 0-cost blue pitch, only comes in blue. Brute Guardian action that defends for 3. It says choose a number. The next time
is this guy. I like the art.
Yeah, it's a good. They have a full art version of this. The next time you deal that much or more damage to a hero this turn, create that many might tokens. Choose a number. The next time you deal that much or more damage to a hero this turn, create that many might tokens. Okay, so this is another card that basically forces your opponent to block, which is nice.
We do like that.
Yeah.
We like that as Guardian.
Now, and there's a little bit of mind games as well. So you can say 4, representing Pummel, I guess. I don't. This is a weird card because like it just forces your opponent to block for a whole card. Is that it gives your opponent all the agency to deny you value from this. Like this, you basically have to have evasion or a combat trick for this card to be good.
And you need your opponent not to have one of those things.
Yeah. They need them to not have a D-React or armor.
Right.
Or a burning desire to
I'm
attack.
not playing this card.
Yeah. It's a whole card. That's why I'm thinking like
it's interesting, but
it's very
if it said wager on it, then I could see it in
all about that
Betsy.
wager.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I can see it, but like I don't know. I've
Also
never
makes
been
the
like
lesser token.
there's so few spots in Flesh and Blood where I'm like, yep, I'm gonna deal 3 damage to my opponent this turn. Not before even casting my card. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm gonna leak 1 damage on this 0/4. It's gonna happen, you know.
Yeah, you turn a whole
Good
card into
stuff.
1 value. Because you
Get
need to
3
deal
for
3 to
7.
4. You need to
Mhm.
deal 3
Yeah,
to
yeah.
4 for this to like even be worth it, and that's a lot of damage. Like that you
Right.
know you're getting through.
All right. Let's move on to a Double Down. This is a 2-cost red pitch Guardian Warrior action that blocks for 3. You may destroy a gold you control rather than pay Double Down's resource cost. The next attack that wagers this turn gets +3 and overpower. If a hero would create 1 or more tokens from a wager this turn, instead they create that many +1 of each of those tokens. So combines well with bet big, Betsy specialization.
I think it's great. It's a great Betsy card.
Yeah.
And Olympia.
Yeah, it's for Betsy and Olympia.
Well, here's my issue with it, right? You're competing for your resource that you're using for your chapeau, right? So, like, sure, you can just pay it for 2, but you probably want to use it to play this card for free by itself. You know, 0 for +3 and then overpower. But then your hero ability also gives overpower, right? So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like counterintuitive to me. I don't really see it being that crazy. Unless you know, this is more of like a win more card to me in a way, you know?
It can be, and because it blocks for 3, I think I'm okay including it. And plus, if you attach this to a gold effect, like money where your mouth is, or something along those
Oh,
lines, or
you're set
even
for the whole game at that point.
right,
You got
because
like
then you're
3
getting 2
golds.
gold tokens, right? So
Right.
you get your gold back and then 1, right? It's kind of the idea.
Right.
You
Right.
should attach this to something that generates gold, because gold is going to be the most valuable thing you can generate. If you can generate more than that, then that's even more value. But it blocks for 3, so like there's not a whole lot of opportunity cost. Betsy's not trying to clash, so you don't get like a non-attack tax, if you will. So I think it's fun. It's not like it's not a 10 out of 10, but it's a solid 8.
This is like I'm finishing up my deck style thing. It's
Yeah.
like, do I want this extra effect? Maybe. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I probably
And it's
wouldn't just like
probably not a
auto
3
include
of.
it, right?
Yeah, it's probably
Right,
not
yeah.
a 3 of. It's probably like a onesie twosie kind of thing. Unless Olympia.
Yeah.
Olympia's got gold coming out of his ass, so he can run all 3, but he ain't got nothing to do with it.
Can you imagine that? It's like a unicorn. It's just
Bro.
shit and gold.
All right, let's move on to the clash cards. So these are Clash of Might and Clash of Vigor. So I'm going to lump them together because they are basically the same. So these Clash of Might, Clash of Vigor say they cost 2, they attack for 6, they defend for 3. When this defends clash with the attacking hero, the winner creates a Might token or the winner creates a Vigor token. If you need to clash, this is one of the best ways to do so. Does this come in Rainbow? I don't think
It does.
It does?
It does.
does.
It does.
Clash
Yeah.
comes okay.
The blue ones are good in
The
Victor.
blues are phenomenal.
Okay.
Vigor is better, obviously. Might looks better because it has flavor text and better art. But that's subjective, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are good. These are Victor cards. They're not going to see play in any other deck.
Okay. So red and sorry, the
not
blues.
Not the reds, just the blues.
Just the blues. This is part of his energy base. Okay.
Right.
Sure. Okay. Moving on to the Guardian Hybrid Prevention instant cards. So on the left we have Battered Not Broken. This is a 0-cost red pitch. This only comes in red. Brute Guardian instant. The next time you be dealt damage this turn, prevent 2. Create a Might token. Slap Happy, similar vein. Next time you be dealt damage, prevent 2 of that damage, create a Vigor token. So, we talked about how great the agility one was. So, I guess we gotta have to look at it from that perspective. These are basically 2 blocks. These have a very niche role, is that it also blocks arcane damage. But the issue is that they're reds, and Guardians don't really like red 2 blocks. Red 2 block that gives you a Might, red 2 block that gives you a Vigor, like that basically means you're playing a 3 value card on the left and a 3 to 4 value card on the right, and they're red. So it's just not.
This ain't it.
Yeah. This
in a vacuum, Slap Happy is okay,
Mhm.
but it's a red card, and the premium for Guardian red cards is way more than maybe 4 value.
Slap Happy, I think, is okay in Warrior, but
Battered Not Broken's garbage.
Yeah.
Period. It doesn't matter if you're Brute, Guardian.
Yep.
All the above.
Yep. All right, moving on. We have the Guardian Hybrid Clash block cards. So this is one of the main ways that you can clash with your opponent. Test of Might says when this defends, clash with the attacking hero. The winner creates a Might token. It blocks for 4. Test of Vigor, same thing. When this defends, clash with the attacking hero. The winner creates a Vigor token, blocking for 4. Victor cards, obviously, and I mean, to some degree, this might replace, Fate Foreseen. This probably is not replacing Sink Below, but just a couple extra value from the block plus clashing, which is what Victor wants to do.
Test of Vigor is very good. I don't know if anything plays Test of Might very much, unless you're trying, like you were saying, like a deck that is built towards making Might tokens with those like 3/6s or something like that.
Right.
Maybe, but funny enough, the one that's not Guardian with some strength, that's probably the best one. So anybody can play that, right?
Yeah, that's generic. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Let's move on. I don't think we have much to say on this one. Okay, so we have the Guardian Hybrid check block cards. I mentioned in the Warrior video that this is not the most elegant name, but these are block cards that check if you have a token. So Wall of Meat and Muscle is a red pitch Brute Guardian block. Does this come in Rainbow? It does, right? No?
I don't think so. Let's see.
Hardy block? Wall of Meat and Muscle? Yeah, double check that.
A blue block 1?
Probably not.
I mean, that existed in Bright Lights. So,
yeah,
he's not far off, right? It's only reds. It's only reds.
It's only reds. Okay. So, Wall of Meat and Muscle is a Brute Guardian block card that defends for 3. It says, when this defends, if you control a Might token, you may put an attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck. Okay, a little bit.
When are you ever actually triggering this, right?
You have to have a Might token at the end of the turn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
you have to generate a might or
Yeah.
might or vigor because we'll talk about the other one, but you generate that with an attack that like makes one of those tokens, and then next turn you like hope to draw this, right? Like that doesn't seem very good. And then, well, I guess you could like do the clash card that we talked about previously, but then again, like you're reducing your clash count by adding these cards, right? So
You can layer it so it clashes and then checks the wall
no,
of
I'm
weight
saying
missile.
like you're adding these cards to your deck, so you add more
Yes.
misses to your clashes.
That is true. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
The-
Yep.
The way you have to look at block cards is the second you draw them, they have to be used either via pitch or physically blocking with them, right?
Correct.
Which means that any time a block card is situational, it's actually probably one of the most conditional cards in the game of Flesh and Blood, because something needs to happen when you draw a card, and it needs to happen right then and there, or you have to eject it out of your hand via pitch, or just blocking 3. So I mean, like, this is just like a super risky red 3 block that doesn't do anything, and you might get a payoff under a very conditional circumstance, which is just bad in my eyes. Both of them.
Okay. Speaking of the other
Good
one,
and limited. Probably
yeah,
good
these,
and limited.
these are fine and limited. Party block is the Guardian Warrior block card that if you have a Vigor token, you gain a life. So effectively blocking for 4, but it's conditional. So not the greatest there. All right, let's move on to the Windup cards. So Mighty Windup, 3 power, Guardian Brute attack action card. Attacks for 7, 6, or 5. Defends for 2. It says instant, discard this, create a might token. Well, the when you put this next to agile Windup, like
It's not even close.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Guardian uses the discard ability the absolute worst out of all 3 classes, because you actively want to be blocking with a lot of your cards, and you need the rest of your cards to do something. So having the opportunity to just ditch a card for 1 value because you feel like it is going to be very few and far between.
Vigorous Windup, same vein, except you discard it, create a Vigor token. So you're turning your blue into a red. Why?
Right.
You're turning your yellow into a red. Why would you do that? I don't. It doesn't.
The Vigor
really,
token makes no sense.
Yeah. The red with the Majestics that lets you double dip on the Vigor token. That's the only thing I can see.
Sure.
Yeah, that's super niche.
I like the rate of these cards in limited.
Yes.
Other than that.
Yeah.
We're kind of breezing through the hybrid section because it's a lot of limited cards.
They're heavy limited.
And they're not agility related. Which, like we talked about in the Warrior section, is the best card or best token. But as Nathan mentioned, it doesn't scale as well as the others, but the power level of the agility token is very, very high. All right, let's move on. We have the Guardian Hybrid Rising cards. So Rising Power is a 2-cost, 6-power Brute Guardian attack action card that defends for 2. If you've drawn a card this turn, this gets +1.
Nope.
I think there's cards that are like
Rising Energy is okay and limited because you can pop a gold token with a blue, and with the 1 floating, you can throw it for 6.
And then Arsenal.
But even then, that's a 2-card 6. That sucks.
Yeah, these are really limited cards. Rising Energy, same thing, but you get a discount if you've drawn a card.
Actually, no, it's a 1-card 6, right? You pop the gold, so you refund it on your pitch, and then you throw down the card. It's a 1-card 6, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because you replaced your card.
Right.
But
So
then you're
Rising
getting a random card in Guardian. Are you gonna
Right.
arsenal that random card? If
Well,
it's
in
blue, probably
limited,
not.
you'll probably take anything you get.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair.
So in limited, Rising Energy, you got my vote, but Rising Power, it ain't it.
Mhm. Of note, these do come in rainbow, and obviously the blues are not good. All right, moving on. We have the Guardian Hybrid Wage cards. So Wage Might, 3 cost, 7 power Brute Guardian attack that defends for 2. When this attacks a hero, you may wager a Might token with them. Wage Vigor, same thing. 3 cost, 7 power, defense for 2. When it attacks, you may wager a Vigor token. So wagering Might, wagering Vigor.
Betsy cards.
Yep.
Possibly.
These are cards that
Possibly.
need to be combined with her hero ability. So it kind of bumps it up to 8, which is can be kind of difficult for decks to block.
Right. It's not the most exciting. You don't want to be like paying 3 cards to overpower 8.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
whatever. Like Wage Gold's probably the only one that's like worth
Yep.
doing
that's a
that
generic,
for.
yep.
Right.
But like once again, you're going to be solving all those problems and getting those ratios correct. 1 or 2 of these might slip in to fill some gap, maybe, but I'm not super high on them. Not even in Betsy.
All right.
No.
Okay. Next, we have the lead with cards. For the people watching at home, we forgot the lead with agility.
Lead with speed,
Lead with speed. Great card name.
which happens to be one of the best cards.
Which
in the
happens
set,
to
by the
be
way.
like
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah. So sorry about that. So I guess we could talk about all 3 of them here. So lead with power. 1 cost. Brute Guardian action that defends for 2. Your next Brute or Guardian attack gets +3, create a Might token. Lead with Heart, same thing, 1 cost, block 2. Guardian or Warrior gets +3, create a Vigor. And then lead with Speed, your next Brute or Warrior card gets +3, create an Agility token, go again. I'll quickly talk about lead with speed. That is the card that made me think. Like Nathan mentioned something very interesting in the Warrior review. He said, "I don't even know if Red Warrior's Valor is good enough anymore," and I was like, that's kind of weird. Let me start building a deck, and then I eventually was like, how do I hold all this going again? I can't hold all this going again.
Right.
So, and lead with speed is one of the reasons why I'm like,
Yeah.
do I even need Red Warrior's Valor? Like,
Nope.
yeah. So let's look at this in context of Guardian. Is it worth
the
to
delta
run a red
in
2
power
block
level between lead with speed and these cards is ridiculous? But these cards,
I think these ones
Go
are
ahead.
still really good though.
I think they're decent. I think they're great with those like 3 for 6 power cards, like the overpower card that you were talking about. Like it's
Well,
pretty decent with that.
my thought process, right, is what does Guardian and even Brute, for that matter, have to go through to pump an attack, right?
pummel generally?
What
Or
comes to my
auras.
mind? What comes to my mind are like shitty auras,
Come to
logism, like just like off the wall kind of cards, that are very situational, right?
Yep.
And this one applies to any attack, so that makes it where.
Sure.
So you could compare this to Come to Fight, right? And all you're doing is you're shifting the block value to more offensive value because you're getting the Might token or the Vigor as your 4th offensive value, basically.
And you like your reds
and-
being offensive as well, so it makes sense.
Right. And so it's the same rate on the card. However, the fact that it says attack counteracts the fact that it's a 2 block because it's more flexible upon play, which means you're going to be put in a lot less situations where you have to actively block with it. So am I saying these are going to make their way into a lot of Guardian decks? I think these will be like the last adopted cards kind of thing, but I think 1 or 2 I mean, you slap one of these on a Spinal Crush, it's not terrible, right? That's coming in for 12. You get their whole hand. Um,
Hmm.
and then you have like a Vigor token for the next turn to play a crippling on 3 cards or something. You know, like it just opens the door to so many more lines. The problem is it's competing with those red spots, right? But maybe there's like a leaner Guardian that doesn't really rely on like Pulverize and stuff like that. Runs like 30 blues or something like that, and they lean on these cards. I could see it working.
Okay.
While we're here talking about these cards, since I know the next stuff that we're talking about
Mhm.
is an equipment piece. The money where your mouth is. This is kind of like a similar cycle, right? I
Mhm.
know that's a generic, but that's the one that basically the ones that make goals are the generic ones. Like the test of strength, that's a generic card. You have your
Right.
I forget the 3 for 7 one, like
Wage gold.
the wage gold. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. But money where your mouth is too. Like that card is definitely going to see some play, right?
Mhm.
Especially in Betsy, just because it's next attack, same thing. You know, it doesn't specify
Right.
guardian attack or anything like that. So being able to give +3 to your Anathos and then overpower that, make it a 10 overpower, and if you win that, you get a gold. Like
Mhm.
it's not bad. So that one, I believe, definitely better. These still pretty good,
Yeah, I
but
think it
it's
just
got to
comes down to
contend to those. You know
right,
what I'm saying?
right, right.
Like if it's between money where your mouth is and lead with heart, like you're gonna pick money, right?
Well, the difference is the wager aspect, right? So like vigor is worth approximately 1 value, whereas gold could be 2, right? The
Right.
difference is money where your mouth is implies a wager, which means you could lose and give your an opponent a gold, right?
That's
If
true.
you get
That's
shut
true.
down. So you're 100% right in the analysis that the gold is worth more. The problem is to extract the value from that card, you have to take on a little bit of risk,
Correct.
which in Guardian, if any deck can do it, it's the deck to be doing it. Because we have a lot more agency over whether just don't play it while they have a full suite of armor, or they have an arsenal or something like that, attach dominate or overpower to it, it's probably getting through, right? But you just have to be mindful of anytime you attach wager to something, there's a little bit of risk. But yeah, 100% the gold is
Sure.
better for sure.
I think the nice thing is that
So
this costs 1, so a lot of the times this can
Mhm.
just slot into a cost curve.
Right.
If
mhm.
not, you can just put in an arsenal, and within the next 2 turns, you'll probably find a situation where you're like, yeah, I have an extra resource. Why not? Let's put
Mhm.
this on this here. Okay.
Sure.
Let's move on. And
Probably not for Victor for obvious reasons because
mhm,
they don't win clashes. But
yeah. Okay. The final card that we need to talk about is Balance of Justice. So this is a generic equipment headpiece that blocks for 2. It has Guardwell, which is a new term. When the combat chain closes, if this defended, put -1 counters on it equal to its defense. Instant. Destroy this, draw a card, activate this ability only if your opponent has drawn 2 or more cards this turn. So, we have gone from Arcanite Skullcap to Crown of Providence to Balance of Justice. Um, you're going to get 2 block out of it, and then you might get a card draw from it. So, this is 2 value or 5 value, basically.
okay.
We talked about in the Warrior video several examples where this is useful. Against Brute, Bloodrush Bellow, this gives you an extra card to defend, which is nice. So it'll indirectly turn off barraging beatdown, stuff like that. We talked about very briefly Steelblade Supremacy, but it's a niche case. If you're getting hit twice by Dory, that's not generally a good thing. We have
Art of War.
Ninja with Art of War, Ancestral Empowerment, Mask of Momentum. We have Lexi in Living Legend. Nathan mentioned that this card is much, much better in Living Legend format, and I agree. We have cards like Toma Fendel, Toma the Imperial Flame.
Mhm.
Yeah,
3 of a kind,
3 of a kind, yep.
Crown of Seeds.
Crown of Seeds, yeah. So there's quite a few situations where this card is pretty good. For Betsy and for the build around Victor deck, they're probably going to be using their specialization helmets. But for Bravo, let's talk about this with Bravo, since Bravo doesn't like Helm of the
It's
Eisenpeak.
it's kind of hard because the hand fixing ability of Crown of Providence is almost pivotal at this point, like especially with your production of blues in Bravo, right? So being able to just like, oh, I drew an all red hand. I really need to be able to do something. Let me block, draw that blue that I'm statistically likely to draw, so I can play something like Command and Conquer or Tunic Chokeslam or something along those lines. It's good for that. Obviously, you're soft to something like Command and Conquer or any Arsenal hate when you play a card like this as well. But I think this card, like you said, if we're in like a brute meta, this card is amazing. Like, I love this card for that. But again, it's like if you arsenaled some attack, right, that you were ready to go and your brute opponent said, hey, I'm going to Blood Rush Pillow, you could still do the same thing with Crown of Providence. Just like, okay, give me my arsenal so I can block with it, right?
Mhm.
Lose your arsenal, sure, but
Yeah, it's not a
you're
free
still
card.
getting the same. It's not a free card. You're utilizing it in a different way, right? Where this is a free card.
The way that I look at this card for Bravo is if I need my win rate to go up against Brute,
Mhm.
I'll throw it in. Specifically, Rhinar and Levia. I think that it has to be like a heavy Brute meta for me to make room for this because I think Crown of Providence is so necessary. But like that's like just my last ditch effort to win the Brute matchup because historically it's been a rough one for Bravo. I'm not sure if that's the
Right.
case anymore, if it's gotten better or worse with the new set. I haven't tested it yet, but historically, it's been a rather rough one for Bravo. And yeah, this could be something that kind of helps swing that a little bit more 50-50 or maybe even Bravo favor.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this very well could be a sideboard piece. Like,
Mm.
I don't know if it's worth bringing AB3 period anymore. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You can play against a good Kano, right? Like, they're just going to blow you up anyway. So, a lot of people are still playing 3AB because the chances that, like, let's say you get a early Kano, like early round, and they happen to be a bandwagon Kanoer. Sure,
Right.
you can maybe get there, but like, I'm more willing to put this in my sideboard than Null Rune Gloves. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
So you're
Right.
you're saying to run this against Kano with AB2. So when they
No,
start popping
no.
off, no?
No,
Well,
he's saying cut. He's saying the sideboard slot would come from the
Oh,
AB.
from the AB.
Taking
Okay,
AB.
yeah, I
right.
see.
Yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
saying for Kano specifically. I mean, yeah, you would probably play it against Kano because they do draw cards and stuff, I guess. But like,
Better than Crown of Providence.
that's true. That's true. You know, it's like 3AB if you draw a blue off of it, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, whatever.
Mhm. Okay, so a card. So I'm happy that the generic legendary is not just power crept like to
Right.
hell.
Right.
So it's that'll keep the price in check and will also give us more deck building possibilities, which is nice. All right,
I'm
so
getting like Skyrim vibes from the art. I like it.
yeah,
I think it's
it
cool.
reminds me a little bit of the Light Warrior piece, the Warband of Balana too.
Yeah. It a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Attractive blonde lady there with
Yeah.
a headpiece. Why not?
All right. Let's talk about where we see the Guardians going in heavy hitters. So now that we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the, I don't know, podcast episode, whatever you want to call this, set review. But now let's kind of like summarize it. Let's talk about where we think their position will be, the builds that we're going to see, and just what we think about each hero. So let's start off with Bravo. Historically has been excellent. Has next to Runeblade, I think Guardian has gotten the most love from LSS because they printed strong cards, set over set over set over set. So now you just have a
Have you seen the last six sets?
hey. From Monarch to like whatever Briar LL, she was strong, dude.
Yeah. No,
but
I agree.
what I mean is that they gave cards like man, it's been so long now. I'm blanking on the card name. It's from Everfest.
Revel and Runeblade, Swarming
Swarming
Gloomveil.
Gloomveil. Yes, there we go. So
Yeah, that
the
card's
Guardian
ridiculous.
equivalent was giving them things like Macho Grande, stuff like anything that's
Right.
like good that just applies to the hero, right? So Guardian traditionally has been, has a very good base of cards, and they have just enough disruptive elements that they block well. They have good equipment and stuff like that. Where do we see Bravo going now that he already had a solid base, but now we're adding in a few upgrades, a few side grades? Where do we see him going?
I think he is definitely the best Guardian.
That would be
I
Starvo.
He's the Guardian with disruption.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Starvo is definitely the best. Yeah, I mean,
He's the Guardian with disruption.
right,
The other ones
exactly.
do not have disruption very much.
If
so.
I don't see
Crippling
it's kind
Crush,
of
good
weird,
card.
right?
Yeah,
and it's just
Start.
weird to like formulate a meta where having spiky value turns is better than consistent disruption. Like I can't like formulate a meta where that's better. Um, I see Victor having like early success because people not understanding what the deck is trying to do, and a lot of people getting frustratingly, fatigued by it. But I think he'll drop off after a month or two. I think he'll have a really good first month and kind of drop off a little bit. I think the opposite of Betsy. I think that people will try some things, not see it work very well, kind of get deterred, and then somebody will find something in about a month or so, and she'll get the ball rolling.
So it's interesting that you said that Betsy and Victor are kind of moving away from the consistency of Bravo
Mhm.
and Oldhim. I think that's what LSS wants. They don't want.
Absolutely.
They don't want. I'll be frank. They don't want Oldhim anymore in the game.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, Crown of Siege, you're just churning through your deck so fast. You're so consistent there.
Right.
Both Betsy and Victor are both saying, you know what? Let's gamble a little bit. Let's you still have a lot of the core Guardian tenets of you block well, you have some disruption, but let's make it a little bit less clear cut.
Right.
And so I mentioned earlier that I see Betsy as kind of like, if Bravo LLs this year, there's a decent chance. I think he's like at 600 something LL points now. Very like Betsy quite comfortably slots into Bravo's slot. A little bit different flavor though. And Victor, is just is very, very different than any of the Guardians that we've seen. So I think the comparison between Victor and Olympia might be warranted here, that they both feel like they're slightly not complete because they're so reliant on a heavy hitter's mechanic that they're only really going to get love from the expansion slot probably.
Right.
But I do foresee the expansion slot in the next set helping Betsy, Victor, Olympia, Kasai, KO. So we'll see.
Right.
Any thoughts on Betsy or Victor, Ed?
I tend to agree. I actually think Victor is the more powerful currently. I know it's like super early. Just the value of being able to draw a card off the gold, off of your clashes and whatnot, you can make that pretty consistent. But in a brute meta, he's probably not gonna be that great, is the thing. And out of these three, I still think Bravo is the better because he has the better specializations. He has the turn one spike. Like, yeah, you could play a big bop on turn one with Betsy, but you know what's better than that? Showtime. Go get pulverized. Heave it. Wow. No.
Pretty good.
So yeah, it's pretty strong.
There is one more topic I want to discuss, and that is, so traditionally Guardian has had issues with illusionists, namely Prism. With the introduction of Luminaris 3.0, how do we see these three Guardians handling the new Prism and Prism with the new weapon in particular. So
I think they just lose if they play the new Luminaris, probably, because like that's a Herald game plan, and traditionally Guardian has been pretty good against the Herald game plan. Maybe I could be wrong. The Angels, that throws a little kink in that, right? But I think most Prisms will likely have like the Iris of Reality, right? They'll probably have that in the sideboard ready to go,
Right.
or a plan for Guardian specifically, and then against things like Ninja or something along those lines. You don't run a lot of poppers. This Luminaris Angels Glow is going to be pretty solid for that.
Right. The Prism lists are in a funny spot where Iris wants blues and the new weapon wants yellows, right? And you can't build a deck. You can build a deck that does both, but they'll do both equally shitty, right? So basically, the Guardian matchup will be in the hands of the
Prism
Illusionist player.
deck building.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like
Right.
if they want to win that match, they will win that match. If they want to give it up to beat everybody else, that's a choice that they can
Yeah.
make. So basically, you just have to look at the meta and say, if I was a Prism player, what would I do? And kind of just gauge it off of that. But I would say that Betsy might have the easiest time because like her game plan is not. I feel like she has like a lot more like sideboard slots that can like do funny stuff against illusionists, right? Like more wager mechanics and stuff like that. Rather than Bravo and Victor are basically the same deck, changed 15 cards.
Okay. All right. Okay, so any closing thoughts on the Guardian cards in general for heavy hitters? I would say overall, it's a decent power level, but I think the Brute and the Warrior cards are just frankly a little bit better, mainly because we saw that the Warrior cards were unified around the class as a whole, whereas we saw a lot of the Majestics are the power cards. We saw them kind of fractured among the three heroes here. And yeah, we'll talk about Brute in a couple days, but yeah, I do think Brute just the card quality there is also very, very high. So but I think there's some interesting decks that can be built. Going from 1 to 3 Guardians is like previously, if you wanted to play Guardian, you only had one choice. Now you have 3, which is great, right? Like Warrior went from 2 to 4. Okay. I guess, and Brute went from 2 to 3. So like I think, in terms of ratios, percentage gain, like you gain the most heroes at least from heavy hitters.
Right.
Yeah. Any general thoughts on the card quality and the Guardian cards in general?
I agree. I mean, Guardian didn't need the cards like Warrior and Brute did, right? Guardian's always been a part of the meta, whereas Warrior and Brute have kind of really had to prove themselves in the meta. And so I think they did a correct balance and kind of favored those two classes. Although I'm not complaining about the Guardian cards. I think they did perfectly fine. They didn't give us too many blue 6s. They didn't give Brute any, which is perfect. And
Unless you're KO.
Right. But then you only have one arm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
All
Can't
right,
multitask that well, but that's all right.
Right.
Yep.
My main takeaway is make sure you get your gauntlets of Iron Will.
Yep.
Your specializations if you're playing one of those newer heroes, and Trounce and Prime to Fight. Very good cards. Get your blue 6s, right?
Yep.
Definitely need those. And then probably Balance of Justice if you're feeling like a high roller, you want to buy all the cards. So.
All right. Yep. Seems like a good summary there. Okay. Once again,
Where's a great place they could buy those cards?
Well,
that's true.
Well, there's 2 places. There's the Magnolia Gaming affiliate link down below,
That's right.
Yeah.
And if they don't have what you need, we also have a TCG player affiliate link as well. So both of those are good places to go. In terms of our other sponsors, just a shout out to Card Culture, Dragon Shield, and Fabric. I know I'm going to be using Fabric to keep a close eye on how people are building their decks. It's a great resource there. Yeah. For those of you who are Brute fans, we will be recording a Brute set review in a day or two. For those of you who are Warrior fans,
It's already up.
we already recorded it. It's already up. What are you doing? Go watch that. We also have a show match with our good friends Blue Pitch coming up in 4 days now. So that will be good fun. Yeah. So that's going to be a 5-match heavy hitters brawl in Classic Constructed. So that should be good fun.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else we need to talk about?
I think that covers it.
All right. We've been going for quite a while, so we'll wrap us up and get us out of here. All right, this has been Josh Lau, Nathan Crawford, and Ed Knight with the Card Guys. Thank you so much for watching / listening. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.